everyone. My name is Gretchen, and I want to welcome you to this module called Focus on Authenticity, seeing and living more of who you really are. Now, this is the third module in the Finding Balance series. However, this also is a standalone program as well. And if you are doing this grouping of Finding Balance, you've already enjoyed the Finding Balance module, the Happy Trails module, and this is the third one. And then the fourth one, the final one in this grouping, is the Emotional Smarts one. So this is a product of our Joyful Living for Mind, Body, and Soul programs. And before we begin, I just wanted to do a short introduction. So again, my name is Gretchen Oler-Hogg, and my business partner and co-creator is Dr. Jerry Eddington. While I'll be guiding you through this module, I want you to know that Lighten Up and Thrive is very much of a joint venture. Jerry and I have really similar but very unique backgrounds, so our skill sets complement one another brilliantly. And first and foremost, Jerry and I both are mind, body, soul coaches, as well as lifetime learners that are passionate about teaching and helping others to experience powerful shifts in their lives. Jerry and I co-created our Lighten Up and Thrive business because we wanted to reach more people with our online and social media support and presence. So we're offering these educational home study modules and programs so that we can share inspirational materials, transformational programs, and to become your catalyst for personal growth. We also offer mastermind coaching programs, but I'll talk about the programs at the conclusion of this module. But you can find out more information on our website, which is www.lightenupandthrive.com, and also on our Lighten Up and Thrive Facebook page. As a mind, body, soul coach, my passion is to facilitate powerful, transformational shifts at a core level for people. Now, transformations occur by discovering, reframing, and shifting limiting beliefs. And transforming limiting beliefs helps to unlock each individual's highest potential and align you with your soul's truth and divine purpose. And this is a key factor in all of our trainings and our programs. And Jerry also specializes as a mind, body, soul coach in transforming limiting beliefs. Jerry's passion is helping others connect to their inner wisdom on a soul level. I love how Jerry calls herself a soul success coach because she's brilliant at helping others to uncover their obstacles. So now, before we begin, Jerry and I just want to thank you for joining us and for participating in this 4-part series called Finding Balance. And again, this is the third home study module that's called Focus on Authenticity. This is a really important area for discovery because being more authentic in life can be challenging because it also means being more open and truthful about who we really are, which also means being more vulnerable. It means that we have to be conscious of our thoughts and our feelings, our hopes and fears, and also we open ourselves up for risk of disapproval from others. So it's really easy to see why we can experience moments of self-doubt. What I love about this module is that you're going to learn how to feel more connected to who you are at your core, so your words, your choices, and your actions are aligned with your true self. Only when you're being authentic can you really tap into the power that comes from being and expressing your true self, your most authentic you. So again, this is a journey and a fabulous, informative module with a lot of opportunities for self-discovery. And you have the activities and the worksheets that are provided, and these will enhance your learning experience. we're going to discover areas such as what authenticity really means, how to feel more confident more often, the obstacles to living authentically and how to overcome them, how to free yourself from other people's opinions and expectations, the secrets of feeling more connected to yourself and others, how to gain greater clarity and peace of mind about who you are and what you want and where you are going, how to quiet that inner critic and boldly pursue your passions, and how to gain true respect from your friends, family, boss, and coworkers. The learning outcomes for this module are to help you understand the definition of authenticity, to understand the difference between your persona and your character, and also to understand why we struggle being authentic, and also to understand how to increase being more authentic with others. Authenticity is truly a struggle for a lot of people. And we want to learn and understand why we live in inauthentic ways and what the influences are that contribute to us being inauthentic. We also want to understand how to increase our willingness to be more authentic with others and in our daily lives. Let's start with a simple fact or an awareness. And that awareness is that we all struggle to be more authentic. It's just the degrees of awareness that really makes a key difference here. And this struggle comes from a deep desire that we have to express ourselves more fully and to have others do the same. But the reality we face instead is that it's often easier to remain and to behave in less authentic ways rather than risk letting others see and experience who we really are. Our examination of authenticity must begin with us first looking at the reasons why people don't want others to see and experience who they really are. This image in slide 6, I think, is a fabulous picture. It's almost as if the person is peering through glass, but also the shadow of the image, which I think so many of us do hide behind the shadows. And this is all about learning how to reveal, again, your most authentic self. So let's begin by pulling out that first worksheet. It's worksheet number 1, and it's titled Authentic Perspectives. I'd like you to review the images on the worksheet, and then please circle or put a check mark next to the image that you think best represents why you struggle with being more authentic. And you can pick one or two. For example, maybe the tape dispenser is somewhat representative of how people feel like they get stuck in the roles they play. And maybe that padlock might represent how people feel insecure about expressing their true selves, especially their faults and their failings. And maybe the robot. People become robotic in living their lives and then lose their individuality in the process. You might want to just pause the recording at this point and just take a few moments to review and look at these. And again, just pick your top one or two. Please know that any image that you do choose is perfectly acceptable. Everybody has a different perception about what every single one of these objects means. And also, you can draw your own object if you choose. So just pick whatever resonates with you. There's not a correct answer here. And now that you've had an opportunity to pick either one or two of these images that represents why you think people or yourself struggles to be more authentic, and also why some of the other responses that people have had in the past are like the robot. People feel like they're robotic because society is dictating who they should be. Or the watch. that people feel like they don't have time to be themselves, or that torchbearer, that flame. Some people have said they feel like they're leading the way, they're bringing in the light. And the waiter serving, some people have expressed that they feel like they're always in service. And the seahorse has represented to some people about feeling lost in a huge ocean. The doorknob might represent about opening doors to new possibilities. And the scissors has been expressed by others before about feeling like they're always being cut up by words, or the pretzel being twisted into knots. So whatever you chose, and for whatever reasons, that's the beginning point for launching into this next area. Because it often feels like we can't truly be authentic because it means we risk having others judge us, or worse, reject us. In the end, it seems easier to just be quiet, to try to fit in, and to hide who we really are, rather than attempt to live more authentically around others. And still, we want to be more authentic, but at the same time, being more authentic seems really scary. If we want to live more authentically, we must move past this fear. And in our ability to move past this fear is a continual process, not a one-time occurrence. So let's begin the process of becoming more authentic by taking an honest assessment of our hidden selves. Authenticity is often misunderstood because, admittedly, it's difficult to define. But more important, authenticity is misunderstood because we aren't always willing to take an honest look at our hidden selves. Now let's look at this picture of the iceberg on slide number 7. A great metaphor for exploring the concept of authenticity can be found in this image of an iceberg, where the iceberg's tip can be seen above the water's surface, while the rest of the iceberg, the majority of it, lies hidden beneath the water's surface. People often go about life in a similar fashion, showing only a small part of their true identity and then hiding everything else. And to become more authentic will require us to make an effort at lowering our waterline and sharing more of who we really are. So let's pull out worksheet number 2, which has the title of Lowering the Waterline. I'd like to give you just a minute or two to answer only the first question listed on this worksheet. So question number 1 is, what's down below your waterline that you don't want to share with others? That's a really potent question. So just pause the recording and take a moment or two to answer question number 1. Now, a lot of us know that we have a lot of those shadows below the surface. Did you list anything that people would look down on you for, such as failures and disappointments, guilt and shame, fears and insecurities, maybe weaknesses and embarrassments, or resentments and jealousies? You know, all of those shadow sides that we don't like to let rise above the surface, or even to let people see in us. Most of these things are things that we might consider or label as bad, and it's understandable why we shouldn't want them to be revealed. But let's bring your attention back to the PowerPoint image of the iceberg. I'd like you to notice that in this model, the iceberg's angled edges below the water's surface aren't just dark. There are actually many edges that are in the light as well. And this is also a metaphor. This is also for the metaphor about the positive things about us that are below those surface of the water, or that water line. So now I'd like you to answer the other 2 questions listed on your worksheet. Question number 2, which is, If you think about yourself more deeply, what positive traits can be found below your waterline? And then the third question, what do you think keeps your positive qualities from being revealed or expressed? So just take a few moments and pause the recording and answer question number 2 and number 3. And now that you're back, you might have found it interesting to observe some of the aspects about yourself, such as, are you hesitant to share your positive traits? Some of the positive traits that other people have listed before are about their hopes and their dreams, or maybe their vision of what would make them truly happy. Some people have also said they've mentioned their accomplishments and their future goals, and also what they love and appreciate about themselves and what excites them and gives them maybe a childlike curiosity. Or some people have identified that they love their creative impulses. The reason people can be equally hesitant to share their positive qualities is because it reveals our most hidden strengths, our desires, and our aspirations, and this can still make us feel vulnerable. These positive qualities can be judged critically by others, so there is risk associated with opening up to others, even if they're in positive ways. Most of us have all experienced this as well. So let's take just a few moments and explore some questions such as, what gets in the way of us sending a consistent personal message about who we really are? What does it mean to live life from the inside out? What happens to our deeply held values and core beliefs when we spend so much effort and energy hiding our dark and light edges below the waterline? I'd like you to reflect on these questions and see what insights you might have. So pause the recording and just write down or reflect on these answers. A few key points to make are, being authentic means being willing to openly and honestly share all of ourselves with others, both the good and the bad. And again, that's perceived bad. If you look up the definition of authenticity in the dictionary, you would see the concept described as the quality of being genuine. Fundamentally, being more authentic is more fully expressing all of who you really are, and this includes, again, both the light and the dark. And when we are being more authentic, we are also more vulnerable. There's no denying this fact. Still, isn't risking a little vulnerability worth the potential gain of becoming more authentic? And maybe by experiencing more confidence in yourself, maybe more willingness to pursue your passions. I love this one to really think about, and that would be to have more freedom from other people's opinions and to be more connected with yourself and others. And also more in a state of peacefulness, and to be more accepting and appreciative of your true self. I think all of us would really value all of those things. So if there is so much to gain by us being more authentic, what has conditioned us to live our lives in inauthentic ways? So let's look at some of the major influences that keep us from living more authentic lives. In this second segment, we're going to explore what causes us to live our lives in inauthentic ways, and why is it hard to be authentic? Well, to answer this question, let's explore the many different influences in our lives that are not conducive to being truly authentic. Let's look at 3 of the most critical influences and how we end up living in inauthentic ways because of them. So I'd like you to look at slide number 8, the major influences that are identified there. I'd also like you to pull out your worksheet number 3, which has the title of Major Influences That Cause Us to Be Inauthentic. And you can just write down notes if you choose in those 3 categories on that worksheet number 3. The first influence that we want to talk about is people. First, the people around us, family and friends, don't teach us to be authentic. They don't tell us what being authentic means or why it's even necessary or important. They want us to fit in so that we can be accepted by society. And secondly, in most families, even normal functioning ones, family members play specific roles based on years of unconscious thoughts, feelings, and behaviors within the family unit. And those are a lot of those shadow limiting beliefs that are below the surface of the water. And thirdly, given that we all need the love, approval, and the acceptance of family members and friends, we let the expectations of others determine who we are and what we can do and how we think we should be. A second major influence is our culture. Our society, and that means like our school and the media and everything else that we deem under this label of society, doesn't really encourage us to spread our wings and express ourselves in real, genuine, authentic ways. Schools, educational systems don't encourage people to think for themselves or to express emotions. Instead, students are taught to follow rules, just absorb information, and also to adhere to social norms. And then again, we have the media. Most of what the media feeds us is superficial and filled with negative messages about what's wrong with everything and everyone in the world and how we need to change to be better. Especially true when you consider how many hours of television that the average person watches each week. That's a lot of exposure to messages that tell us that success and happiness can only be achieved by embracing what's popular and fashionable. And the third influence is ourselves. Each one of us has an internal critic constantly telling us who we are and that we're not good enough. You know, that self-talk, that inner critical voice. And this is reflective of all of those shadows or the limiting beliefs that are below that surface of the water, that water line. And whether you want to try something new or open up to someone else, your inner critic is right there to tell you not to do it. And your inner critic then quickly points out your weaknesses and reminds you of how you will likely fail and embarrass yourself if you take this course of action. I think we can all recognize some of that self-talk, right? Your inner critic isn't interested in you succeeding when it's based on all those limiting beliefs, but it's really just interested in maintaining the status quo of where you're at. That inner critic pretends that it's there to protect us, but its only desire is to keep us small, to keep us stuck. And that's why we end up allowing our minds to believe what our inner critic says, such as, "You can't do that. Who do you think you are? Everyone will laugh at me if I do that." Or, "Remember the last time you tried something like that and what a mess you made of it?" Or, "Why do you always say and do such stupid things? You really don't have what it takes." Now, some of you might identify with some of those inner critic dialogue right there, right? So all of these are actually accusatory statements, and they stymie you from being more authentic. They keep you stuck. And as we know, being critical of ourselves ultimately leads to doubt and self-imposed limitations. Because how can we ever become more authentic if we believe we're not good enough to begin with? We spend so much mental and emotional energy believing what our inner critic tells us that we're not measuring up. That brain looping or perseverating on things. I'd like you to just take a few moments and pause the recording and see what insights you have about yourself. What are some of the inner critic dialogue and messages that you can recall? So just take a few moments and discover what that inner voice is really saying. One of the things that's really important to remind ourselves is just taking some time to quiet our minds and ask ourselves who we really are. That's how we rise above our inner critic voice. Because our ability to be ourselves and to live more authentic lives is directly related to our awareness of when and how we're being inauthentic. So let's do an activity that can help you see another influence that keeps you from stepping into your own authenticity. Do you recognize this word very blatantly on slide number 9, should? I like to use the expression of stop shoulding on yourself, because the shoulds are a lot of what keeps us stuck. So I'd like you to pull out worksheet number 4 that's titled You Should. And I'd like you to take a few moments to list the things that other people have said that you should be doing, that you should be saying, or that you should be living your life in a certain way. And I'll just give you a few examples here, like you should get more sleep. You should eat healthier. You should spend less time watching television. You should go to college. You should be exercising every day, etc., etc. So take a few moments and just pause the recording, and I'd like you to just list the you shoulds that you're very familiar with. And now that you're back, I'd like you to just pick 2 of your should statements and just circle the top 2 that have had the greatest influence on you personally. Ask yourself this: how did these 2 should statements impact your life? Look at the bottom of the worksheet, and I'd like you to take a few moments and answer these 2 questions. The first one is how much time and energy do you spend thinking about what you should be saying or doing in your life instead of what you want to say and do? And the second one of how does you should cause you to live a less authentic life? So pause the recording and take a few moments to do that. So to wrap up this second segment, there are just a few key points that I want to make. When others try to change us, this reinforces our feelings of inadequacy. When we feel inadequate, we aren't going to try to be more authentic. We're going to try to fit in, to get along. The influences of people and society can make it difficult for us to do and say what is true for us. Even our own personal issues can stop us from being, doing, and saying what's true. And if we want to live more authentically, we have to first become aware of and take full responsibility for the influence of other people, the culture, and even our own personal view of ourselves. And if we feel like we aren't as good as others, we can create a public persona that we believe will help us make it in life. This persona is yet another thing that gets in the way of us expressing who we really are. We'll explore the difference between our true self and the facade that we put on in front of others. So this leads us into our third segment, which is persona versus character. We all have invented phony ways of being and acting in life as a means of surviving and getting by. We've created a public persona to cover up what we don't want people to see, just like makeup hides a blemish. The problem is that it's difficult to be authentic when we are at the same time pretending to be someone who we are not. We cannot be authentic if we're pretending to be somebody else. So I'd like you to pull out your next worksheet, which is worksheet number 5, which is entitled Persona versus Character. Feel free to take down any notes that you want to on this, or the key points that stand out the most for you. It's helpful to keep in mind what being authentic looks like compared to the public persona that we project. The conceptual model on this PowerPoint slide can reveal the differences. In this model, character is defined as the essence of who we are, and persona is defined as the external personality that we have created. The circle on the left represents those times when we let our persona be primary and our character be secondary. The problem with this is that we restrict what can enter into us or what can be expressed by us. This inevitably leads to stagnation in our personal growth and development. It also means that we are spending more time protecting ourselves from a variety of things, such as the external stressors, the internal fears, perceived limitations, as well as the personal inadequacies. And then the circle on the right represents those times when we let our character be primary and our persona be secondary. When we allow our character to be primary and our persona to be secondary, we allow more to enter into us and more to be expressed by us. This means that we are spending more energy living from an authentic place of potential and possibility. There's nothing to protect, so everything contributes to personal growth and development. So you might want to pause the recording and just write down some of your insights as you reflect on the differences between these in this model, and you also can write down the definition of what character is and what persona is from this slide. Now that you're aware of the difference between your public persona and your true character, let's identify more clearly what the public persona looks like and what we're trying to hide behind it. So I'd like to pull out your 6th worksheet right now, and that 6th worksheet has the title of The Mask I Wear. Having a persona is a survival skill. It's a survival technique, something we learn very early on in our lives. It's what we want to be known as instead of who we really are, in an effort to avoid criticism or rejection. And at its best, a persona can be the good impression we wish to present to others. And at its worst, it can be mistaken for our true nature. And sometimes we end up believing that we are persona, which makes it difficult, if not impossible, for us to be authentic. So you might want to take a few moments just to read over the directions on this worksheet and answer those 2 questions. And the first one is what mask do you often wear in social settings? It's important to identify your persona and see it for what it really is, a social mask. So reflect on that question, and this will help to identify some of the things that you say or you do to get people to think positively about you. So in that first box, my social mask is... And then the second question is, once you've identified your social mask or your public persona, just take a look behind it and identify what it is hiding. So what is your social mask hiding? Usually the thing that you're hiding is something that you feel badly about yourself and therefore you don't want others to know about. So pause the recording and answer those 2 questions. I hope that was revealing for you to go through this exercise. And so some of the key points to make here are that acknowledging the existence of your public persona and then recognizing the truth it is trying to hide can be liberating and give you permission to be more real. The more that you operate from your public persona, the more you train yourself to believe that there is something wrong with you and that you have to hide it from others. Usually we have to confront our public persona in a more authentic way so that we can move beyond its limits and the insecurity that it creates within us. And as you become more aware of your public persona, you are able to recognize it without judgment. You can have compassion for yourself and begin to live, speak, and act more authentically. The concept of authenticity that we've been exploring may be simple to understand theoretically, but to integrate it into your life and to practice it on a regular basis takes some awareness and also some deliberate effort. So let's bring your exploration of authenticity to a close by taking a few moments to identify how we can use what we've learned today to become more real in our lives. Because being more authentic can be challenging, but as you acknowledge this challenge and work to overcome it, you can begin to reveal more of who you truly are to yourself and to the world. Now I'd like you to pull out worksheet number 7, which has the title of Becoming More Real. And the objective for this is to help you distinguish between the times that you feel most and the least authentic, and then the subsequent behaviors that result from that. And you see the pieces of the puzzle on this slide number 12, and that's exactly what this is like. It's like just fitting in the pieces of the puzzle, and it'll make more sense when you answer some of these questions on worksheet number 7. And the first one is, I feel my most authentic when, and I behave in the following ways. And the second question is, I feel least authentic when, and I react in the following ways. And the third question is, I give away my own authenticity when, and then I feel. So I'd like you to take a few moments and just to pause the recording and to answer these questions, because this will help you literally put those pieces of the puzzle together. I hope you had some great insights from doing that worksheet number 7 and answering those questions. Some of the responses that we've had before that people have identified in answering the first question, I feel my most authentic when, might be just trusting your heart, or by following your passion, or to feel safe with who you are. And that I behave in the following ways by having more fun or being lighthearted. And the second question might be something like, I feel least authentic when feeling judged or criticized. And some of the answer responses to question number 3 might be something like, I give away my own authenticity when I act robotic or I do what others expect. So those are some pretty potent questions there as well. So the final points that I'd like you to think about are just reflecting on how becoming more authentic is not so much about what we know, but what we do. Mother Teresa once said, honesty and transparency make you vulnerable. Be honest and transparent anyway. Or as author and speaker John Mason has so eloquently said, you were born an original, so don't die a copy. And as you go out and face the world, remember how liberating it can be for you and those around you when you have the courage to be yourself and to go for what you want in life, because it takes courage to live life with a real sense of honesty and genuineness. And this is about your life, about you being real. It requires courage and focus. And I'd like to leave you with one of Jerry's and my favorite quotes by Marianne Williamson. And I know many of you know this, but it's so perfect for this focus on authenticity home study module. And that is that our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing entitled about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. And again, that's from Marianne Williamson, A Return to Love, Reflections on the Principles of A Course in Miracles. You'll also notice you have one other worksheet that's called Progress Updates, Shedding Light. And this is just to use any time that you want to check in with yourself and re-examine some of your personal growth, some of the transformation that you've already had. So open this up anytime, answer the questions, and it's really interesting to see how much progress you've actually made. So enjoy that. And so just to wrap this up, what we'd like to leave you with is to live authentically is to let go of fear and judgment and rejection. Share all of yourself openly and honestly. Be authentic. Don't hide your truth. Liberate yourself. Don't let others change you. Give yourself permission to be real by acknowledging your public persona versus your character. And acknowledge that it takes courage to live life with a real sense of honesty and genuineness. We want to really thank you for joining us. Jerry and I look forward to sharing all of our other educational modules and home study series in any of our other programs and also our standalone modules. So thank you for participating. We hope you found this information valuable. And if you are joining us as part of this series of Finding Balance, the next one will be Emotional Smarts, using emotional intelligence to create a more joyous, richer life. Jerry and I would also like to just bring your attention to the last slide, which has a little bit of information about our 28-day soul coaching programs. And you can find these on www.lightenupandthrive.com. And Jerry has the 28-day program called Let Your Soul Shine, and I have Letting Go into the Flow. So until the next time, keep thriving.